Happy Friday, happy Good Friday to those recognizing the day. Get this thing rolling. All right. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Know Your Pharmacist live stream, where we unravel the ever-evolving landscape of healthcare and wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Joaquin Acosta, the CEO of PharmTrue, here to guide you on a journey of discovery and understanding. Tonight, we delve into the critical issues impacting our health and the very fabric of our healthcare system. We start with a deep dive into the often unseen realm of medication errors, a topic that requires not just our attention, but also our collective action for transparency and patient safety. In our Tech Talk, we shine a light on the intersection of healthcare and digital security. The recent cyber attack on the UnitedHealth Group, Change Healthcare, is more than just a news headline. It's a wake-up call to the vulnerabilities and resilience in our digital healthcare infrastructure. We're going to explore the complexities and the bold steps, aka big money, paid already in response to this crisis. Today also marks the day before National Doctors Day. Actually, celebrating physicians. And in our Enlightenment Hour, we honor the heroes in white coats. So National Pharmacist Day, that's another day. National Doctors Day, this is for medical doctors. I don't count as one of those. Their dedication and commitment form the cornerstone of our healthcare system. So join me as we celebrate these medical pioneers and reflect on their indispensable role in our lives. In the Herbal Wellness Corner, sponsored by High Horse Cannabis Company, we explore the intricate world of terpenes in cannabis. These aromatic compounds are not just about the scent, they're about tailoring therapeutic experiences. We'll uncover how these natural wonders can align with your health goals. Our community spotlight turns to the American Kestrel Project at New Mexico State University, a testament to the power of community-driven science and conservation. And in our Men's Health Minute, we confront a silent crisis, the disparities in men's health. It's time to shed light on why men are less likely to seek medical help and how we can change this narrative. As we embark on tonight's show, remember that each segment is more than just information. It's a conversation, an exchange of ideas and insights that can transform our understanding and approach to health and wellness. So let's connect, collaborate, and be part of this enlightening journey. Together, we can shape a more healthier, more informed world. Thank you to our incredible show sponsors, PharmTrue, High Horse, Vado Speedway Park, and the Baked Chicken Farm for supporting our mission in empowering wellness and fostering community-driven healthcare. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and engaged. This is Know Your Pharmacist, and our journey begins now. All right. First things first, addressing the unseen, prescription for secrecy. Most pharmacies not required to report medication errors. The state of New Mexico, we've got a significant adverse drug event reporting mandatory by the Board of Pharmacy, and usually anything that actually causes significant harm and goes out has to get reported. Anything before that, technically kind of is up to the SOPs within, the medical system in place or the pharmacy system in place, whether it's a hospital or a, independent pharmacy, community pharmacy, big box, whatever you name it, right? But anyways, an interesting report diving deep into an investigation actually representing, a specific case, I believe in Illinois, and I'm going to go ahead and air the story here because it's very interesting. Let's take a look.
If your local pharmacy makes a mistake with your prescription, it doesn't have to tell you. Our 13 Investigates reporter Sierra Putman joins us now. And Sierra, I understand you started looking into this after a local family reached out.
Turns out if your pharmacy gives you the wrong dosage or medication, you may never know. What we found is that our current system basically gives these pharmacies a prescription for secrecy. John Casolaro is your typical 3-year-old. He's happy and playful, in part because he takes penicillin twice a day. Doctor's orders after John and his older sister developed a rare disease called rheumatic fever. The medicine is a preventative if he gets the fever again.
That could be potentially fatal to him.
Which is why the family was concerned when the toddler suddenly stopped wanting to take his medicine this past December. Then Dad noticed something odd.
I don't think we have enough water for this dose.
This means that we've overdosed him because the powder was too concentrated.
In hindsight, these parents believe the 3-year-old experienced side effects.
I mean, it was definitely a lot of diarrhea.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot of upset tummy.
The Costolaros say CVS never alerted them to a potential problem, so they notified the pharmacist.
She kind of interrupted me and said, "Oh, yeah, we've had trouble with our water filling machine." And I was kind of like dumbfounded.
Do pharmacists have to report a medication or a dosage error to a patient?
There is nothing that mandates that in law.
Veronica Vernon says notifying patients about a problem is a best practice. She teaches pharmacy practice at Butler University. Vernon says medication and dosage errors are quite serious.
Is it a deadly error?
It can definitely be a deadly error.
A recent study estimated 7,000 to 9,000 deaths in the U.S. each year due to medication errors across the healthcare system. Mistakes that cost $40 billion annually and impact millions of patients.
Most pharmacies have mandatory reporting internally, but that information doesn't get shared.
13 investigators reached out to CVS about the Costolaros case. The company did not admit there was a mistake, but sent a statement saying, quote, out of an abundance of caution, the pharmacy redispensed penicillin. CVS also did not answer several of our questions, including what caused the problem if there was one, and if it reports errors to patients. Indiana only makes hospital pharmacies report mistakes to a state agency. Just one state, California, requires community pharmacies like CVS to report every prescription error.
Do you think other states should follow this California model with mandating reporting?
Absolutely.
Rita Jew is president of the Institute for Safe Medication Practices. The nonprofit reviews voluntary error reports to help create best practices in healthcare.
Is there any national database that knows how many medication errors there are out there?
No.
Meaning we do not know how many medication errors pharmacies make.
It could be 2%, it could be 20%, it could be 80%. We don't really know.
We know they're happening and we don't report them. We can never learn from them and we can never put systems in place to prevent them from happening.
Jew supports mandated reporting so the industry can better track mistakes. She and Vernon both recommend policies that encourage error reporting.
We look at the circumstances. If there is reckless behavior, we definitely want to hold people accountable. But if it is a human error, then we don't punish them.
The goal is to build a culture that supports pharmacists and pharmacy workers, many of whom report they're overworked and understaffed. The Costolaros acknowledged those issues. They filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office to review what happened.
I think it's a CVS issue, not this particular pharmacist.
The AG's office reports receiving 66 complaints about medication or dosage errors since 2021. It took 5 to the pharmacy board. There you go. Costolaros want their story to be a warning, especially for families with loved ones like John. He has a brain disorder that limits his verbal skills.
There is no way for him to tell us, like, hey, my stomach really hurts, or hey, this medicine really doesn't taste the same.
Most of all, they want the right procedures in place. And if there is a mistake,
Do you think they should have to report if they know?
Yeah, I would think so, absolutely.
So Sierra, I know you talked to CVS about this family's issues, but really this is an issue with just about any retail pharmacy that we can visit.
and that's why we reached out to some of the nation's largest to ask them about their policies. We didn't hear back from all of them, but CVS and Amazon say they have systems in place to prevent errors, but would not say if they always tell customers if there's a mistake.
All right, well, I know Sierra took all these responses from the pharmacies and put that data together on our website. If you'd like to read them for yourself, just go to WTHR.com and look for 13 Investigates.
You know, a lot of eerie things there when you come to think of that. I mean, if drug errors maybe getting unreported, maybe getting, maybe systems in place to perhaps even, almost just bury things. And, at least in New Mexico, we have a significant adverse drug event, reporting system. However, again, the discretion of what causes significant is, yes, Did it cause serious harm? Did it cause harm? Are you able to measure that? Are you able to prove that and then thus report it? So it does create definitely layers in there. Obviously, pharmacies are going to be nervous on those sides of legal action and things like that. However, not having a uniform, countrywide error reporting system in place, even if ISMP is able to accommodate for some of this stuff, it is just hopefully maybe one of those things that gets addressed in the future when you talk about all the technological advancements and things like that are coming out within all of healthcare and within all of healthcare systems. And what it's going to take is an actual pharmacist to come up with some really, really awesome technology that gets adopted, throughout the country and probably is enforced federally. As you can see, the state of California has significantly stricter regulations in place where people have to, pharmacies have to report all errors, whether it's significant adverse drug event or an adverse drug event, whatever it may be, actually defined as. And, that's just the food for thought here. And so there's no reason, if you're a patient, especially when things are becoming reconstituted, if you're getting a powder that the pharmacy put and added water into, if something looks off on that bottle, feel free to question it, right? That's always, okay. Even if the pharmacist, right, and the pharmacy is supposed to be the final check, they are supposed to be doing that job. As you can see there with young John, little things happen from time to time. It's always worth double checking. If you don't feel right about it, then ask about what the math that went into it, or whatever dosing needed to go. Like, if the pharmacy didn't, for instance, put the label on the actual, mLs that needed to be added to that bottle, then you would be able to at least see, hey, they were supposed to put 63 milliliters in this, bottle of amoxicillin. Ideally, when you get a bottle of antibiotics that's been reconstituted, it should be full, right? So if something's half full, like something ain't right there. If it's very thick, those are probably signs that something could have been off. But again, there's a lot of other situations where you would not be able to tell one bit. So not to strike any fear or mistrust in any of, the world of pharmacy, but, in our Pharmacist Frontline segment, I think we can also talk about transparency and where we can be better, right? And, obviously nobody wants to have their license put on the line. Nobody wants to have big lawsuits, anything like that. But there has to be a system, of course, in place for, making improvements, learning from other people's mistakes, and going from there. And obviously the big box corporations have a lot of that in-house data, so they can go and refine their systems, make a tweak here and there and create all the safeguards in every single possible way, right? Whether it's filling one drug at one time at a station, you pull, you fill, you do one, you process it, you don't have a bunch of orders all next to you and you just try, doing your best, right? You got to work on one thing at a time, very simple little things there. But again, ideally, between the pharmacy technology, between your medication dispensing system and the pharmacy software, which already should be very, pretty much well tuned to prevent those kinds of errors, it still takes a solid pharmacist in charge and a solid pharmacy operation that is backing it and systems in place to absolutely prevent medication errors. Pharmacist Frontline segment, we're all about transparency and giving the best information that we can. And Channel 13 reports perhaps some places in the industry where we can be a little better. And so I think all of our pharmacy teams, I would implore you to take an extra look at your internal processes and how that works, right? Especially harder in a big box pharmacy where you're doing 600, 700, 800 prescriptions a day. You have no staff. Maybe you have, adverse events to report, and those get put on the bottom of your pile. And then the next day you come in and you're still blown up all day, not able to put down the phone, not able to get off the, counseling window, whatever that may be. And so coming from that kind of system in CVS, right, that's where I came from. That was really like that. that is a place where you don't take the time to overlook things properly unless you really have to carve it out. But there's no fail-safe method, in place in these big box corporations that's going out and patrolling it, and trying to actively make things better. They wait for that big lawsuit to thus go back in there and, tune in and prime all their systems in place. So anyways, I'll stop worrying about that for now, and we'll, just hope and pray that things continue to be better. Pharmacists in general, outstanding jobs that they do in all your healthcare systems. And it's not to by any means question anything to the absolute point where, you're just crisscrossing yourself. I know, for instance, looking at the entertainment Hollywood industry right now, I can definitely resonate that feels a little crisscrossed. However, pharmacy is not that. So we're not trying to have that parallel paranoia of a sentiment, but just talk about being better. So no issues with that. So crazy to think, UnitedHealth Group has already paid out $3 billion to providers following the Change Healthcare cyber attack. That's insane. So as I was talking about, I think I maybe put this up last week or 2 weeks ago, jumping in on the lawsuit. Were you affected by the Change Healthcare, situation? If you're a healthcare provider, jump in, right? Well, a $3.3 billion pot there. Pretty insane. So UnitedHealth Group has already paid out more than $3.3 billion to providers affected by the cyber attack on its subsidiary Change Healthcare. The company disclosed in February that a cyber threat actor breached part of the unit's information technology network. And so looking out, it had paid out an additional $1 billion to providers that have been impacted by the Change Healthcare cyber attack since last week, bringing the total amount of funds advanced to more than $3.3 billion said on Wednesday. So UnitedHealth, which owns Change Healthcare, discovered in February that a cyber threat actor had breached part of its unit's information technology network. Change Healthcare processed more than 15 billion billing transactions annually, and 1 in every 3 patient records passes through its system, according to the website. The company disconnected the affected systems immediately upon the detection of the threat, and according to a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the interruptions left many healthcare providers temporarily unavailable to fill prescriptions or get reimbursed for their services by insurers. Not the biggest, but one of the most important people that are healthcare providing units that was absolutely affected for the longest amount of time was your TRICARE network. All our active military pharmacies, pharmacy members, were really, really having a hard time there, because at least, your TRICARE for Life patients can go to Walgreens, and Walgreens had other systems in place to, address this kind of stuff. But if you were active military, you were really, 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 really at the bottom of the barrel of, people getting taken care of and the situation getting fixed. And that was, some of the really, really frustrating aspects to, to just even cover, even in my segment here, right? But, you're all of a sudden having to pay out of pocket for chronic health medications, being put on all these kind of wait lists, getting told to transfer to mail order, and when we're talking about medication adherence, and all of a sudden people could just be like, well, I give up, this sucks. I'm just going to wait until it's done. So I'm not going to take my blood pressure medication for a month, or my blood thinner for X amount of time. And, we don't know how much of that actually happened or anything like that. But again, those are those medication adherence barriers that are absolutely heartbreaking when people get deflated and they just are like, well, I'm not going to participate. And so $3.3 billion has been paid so far. That's all I got to say. I hope literally that our healthcare data is a lot more, secured after that, right? When you talk about, in the segment before, these big corporations will go and put in all these extra safeguards and safe measures once you actually get, sued a la verga, and then go from there. And, I understand both sides of the coin. Hopefully our insurance network in the United States is not vulnerable to cyber attacks, anything like that. Who knows? I mean, obviously you could consider maybe conspiracy theory, points of cyber attack under the bridge in Baltimore, right? In that boat that somehow went off course boom, and hits the bridge when it should have been, definitely going right between those bridges like all the rest of them do. Lights flicker off, and then all of a sudden it veers into the, to breaking down the bridge and causing a huge logistical mess out in, pretty much the busiest port in our country, shipping port by sea. And anyways, we're being infiltrated in a lot of different places. If that is the case, if we are being, cyber attacked through, major insurance carriers, through, shipping carriers, whatever that may be, is that a national security issue? I have no idea. But either way, these are some big things that hopefully we can learn from, and become better going forward in the future. And, medication adherence as a pharmacist, right? That is our number one thing. Helps to prevent all the crappy health outcomes, hospitalizations, rehospitalizations, death, anything that you think of, disease progression. If we can keep people taking their medications on time and as prescribed, when you're diabetic, cardiovascular issues, whether it's high blood pressure or, post-MI, who knows, right? We got to just try to prevent things going forward. You can prevent cardiovascular events by keeping people on their medication. You can prevent, all kinds of diabetic ketoacidosis or any other disease progression there, where they all start to overlap each other by just keeping people, with their insulin, with, any other diabetes related medications that may not be quite insulin, right? And there's a bunch, so we're not even gonna name those. Or even, for instance, asthmatics, right? We are in the full pollen season right now in, Las Cruces, New Mexico, at the very least. All the pollen counts are high. You go look up on the city website, Las Cruces, New Mexico pollen count, you're going to see, high pollen everywhere. Your asthmatics during this time of year, if you have allergic asthma, it is a huge deal. You need to be on your steroid every single day. You cannot be missing it. It could cause some serious issues. And we had looked at a story, I believe it may have been about 2 weeks ago, a young man that actually passed away because his medication was not, all of a sudden not covered by insurance. He withdrew, said, screw it, I'm just going to be off of it until I figure it out. Ends up, passing away from an asthma attack. And you need to be on your daily inhaled steroid because, yes, that controls the inflammation. That controls all of that there. Your rescue inhaler, right? Your beta agonist, short acting, whether it's a Ventolin, ProAir, whatever it may be, if you're using that more than 2 or 3 times a week, you have uncontrolled asthma. You don't just use that if you've actually got, allergic asthma and you've got these other issues. You need to stay on your daily steroid. So, so on and so forth, right? If you have COPD and you exacerbate these other things and you already had allergic asthma, right? Terrible. What's my only recommendation when I'm sitting here talking about that? Get your pneumonia shot, right? Make sure you're up to date on your vaccines. Stay on your medication. If you've got to advocate for your own health, then do it. Don't be afraid. Don't give up. Be the squeaky wheel. Do what you got to do. Partner with good healthcare providers who will do that on behalf of you. If you notice over time consistently that your healthcare provider is not willing to advocate for you and, lay it all out on the line and protect your health, whether it's with your insurance company or with other healthcare providers, or even, just keeping it real with you, then, something is wrong. Get a second opinion, do what you got to do, but stay on your meds. All right, let's talk Enlightenment Hour. Celebrating tomorrow, National Doctors Day. So a lot of people are celebrating that today because it's the end of the work week. Shout out to all the doctors, MDs, physicians working tomorrow on National Doctors Day. I'm sure doctors don't entirely love working the weekends, and who does? But people work the weekends. There's no problem with that, especially healthcare. You're 24/7, 365. So, especially if you're out and about tomorrow, whether it's out in the ER or the urgent care, or whatever it may be, thank a doctor today. We really appreciate all doctors everywhere. I do not technically count as a medical doctor. I'm a pharmacist, so I will take my credit on National Pharmacist Day. National Doctors Day, this is for physicians. Let's show you guys the history of National Doctors Day.
More than the application of science and technology, medicine is a special calling.
And those who have chosen this vocation in order to serve the fellow man, they understand the tremendous responsibility that it entails.
Indeed, today we gratefully remember physicians such as Dr. Daniel Hale Williams and Dr. Charles Drew, who not only advanced their respective fields but also brought great honor and pride to their fellow Black Americans.
In honor of America's physicians,
The Congress, by Senate Joint Resolution 366,
has designated March 30
As National Doctors Day,
and has authorized and requested the President to issue a proclamation in observance of this day.
I encourage all Americans to observe this day
with appropriate programs and activity.
Thank you, doctors.
Huge thank you for all that you do.
We know the sacrifice that you've made, and for that we just say thank you.
You know, it takes a team to get it all done, right? And you think of collaborative efforts there, of course. You know, physicians, you guys are the quarterbacks in this system, right? I mean, relating it to football, physicians, you guys are the point guards if it's basketball, right? You know, if physicians, you guys are the strikers if it's soccer. You know, physicians are touching the ball the most. You know, they've got the patient. You are making the decisions. You are coordinating things, whether it's, you know, you directing that and then going from there. And then everybody else is leaders in their own regards. You know, it's not to say a pharmacist isn't quarterbacking in the back of the pharmacy, but when you look at the overall healthcare of a patient, right, you know, physicians are the ones that all obviously oversee nurse practitioners, pharmacists, clinicians. You know, they're the top down kind of quarterback of the whole medical aspect of everything. And so they coordinate the care, they identify, you know, prescribe disease, and, you know, they gut it out for a lot of years to be able to do that. Not only, you know, your undergrad competing to be the best of the best to get into graduate school and then going to residency and sucking it up for another 4 years after that, you know, doing all the scrub work, racking up a whole lot of debt, and then getting out there, out into their communities, you know, and really being tested fully for the, you know, fact that they have to be compassionate, awesome healthcare providers. And, you know, I would really love to implore, I think the state of New Mexico is chasing out doctors by the way, you know, I think insurance is aligned here in the state of New Mexico. Not only are physicians not being reimbursed, but the cost to enter into these kinds of things, especially if you're an independent, you know, is absolutely turning doctors away, right? And that's not great. And we have a lot of issues with, you know, healthcare, pharmacy deserts, healthcare deserts, people leaving. You know, you have good people in this state that come up, are born here, go to school, you know, and then go and serve another state. And that's me just obviously a little bit biased to the state of New Mexico and my little place here in the corner of the world, Las Cruces, for sure. But, you know, I'd love to see, you know, doctors coming back, staying here, and all the doctors that are here either way, you know, whether you're residents, you know, whether you're, you know, chief medical officer of any of the hospitals, whatever you guys do, you know, we appreciate you guys. We recognize you guys. You know, you guys definitely are the quarterbacks in the healthcare system there. And, you know, it takes a team, it takes a village. And, you know, we got to support each other. We got to recognize each other. I know there was earlier this year, a little bit of a strange controversy with the American Medical Association. There were some MDs in there who, I guess, got their egos a little tickled with other healthcare providers being labeled as doctors, such as pharmacists or nurse practitioners, and not even the label of the doctor, but being able to prescribe. And, you know, they were, you know, definitely there was some strange, unprofessional commentary that was happening there, but it was only a few select doctors, and you had a lot of great doctors that rallied and say, you know, they completely, you know, respect all professions and they understand everybody has a role to play. And, you know, just because, you know, pharmacists or nurse practitioners may have prescriptive authority in certain things, you know, it doesn't knock anybody else down by any means. And the problem is healthcare access, and, you know, our provider to population ratio is pretty trash here in America. And, you know, all you want to do is see that get improved, right? Not just in the big cities, not just in the cities where you have, you know, medical schools, right? So anyways, Happy National Doctors Day to all the physicians out there. Much love, much respect. Provider to provider, baby. Got to do what you got to do. All right, let's talk. Our Herbal Wellness Corner brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company. Guys, hoping you're shopping High Horse 24/7, 365. Got all the greatest deals. Drive-through, 2 drive-through stores here in the state and here in the city of Las Cruces. And then at the state line, we got the Chaparral store. Closes at midnight, opens it again at 7 a.m. But 7 a.m. to midnight, you are hitting it all day long, whether you're coming from, El Paso. No one's going to save you if you're bringing a Schedule 1 controlled substance back to El Paso, but people do it. Other than that, state line is awesome. We obviously know Texas helped New Mexico reach $1 billion in cannabis sales, which is just interesting considering it's almost black market to Texas, but maybe it all gets consumed before they get back home across state lines. Who knows? That's not even the point of what this segment is about, guys. I wanted to remind everybody, if you haven't been down to our website, farmtrue.care, we've got a cannabis learning center up at the top tab, getting stuff added to it, if not daily, weekly. Today, big one that we put in there, awesome little blog about terpenes, guys. And I know I've harped on this a few different times and ways in my Herbal Wellness Corner segment, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company, but it's until everybody understands what terpenes are and shop for terpenes over indica and sativa, then my mission is not done, right? So, talking about terpenes, what are terpenes? Terpenes make the wonderful flavors, in our chemovars, but they also have a lot of therapeutic healing potential, right? Whether it's your citrusy, orangey flavor or, scent, which would be very prominent in the terpene limonene, right? Or a little bit of a garlicky tone, might be a little bit of terpinolene or nadilolol. Then you got, myrcene. It's going to be a little bit of an earthy tone, but they all got their own different, clinical and therapeutic benefits. And so I really implore you guys to go check out our terpene blog. At the end of the day, where you're looking at daytime versus nighttime strains, obviously, terpene selection, when you're looking at terpenes like linalool or myrcene, those have very sedating properties. Linalool is the main terpene when it comes to lavender, right? And people put lavender on their pillows to go to sleep again. So indica, not a huge believer. Sativa, not a huge believer. It's a nomenclature thing. I won't, completely knock you or argue with you if, this is just what you have been ingrained on, but I'll tell you the placebo effect is very real. So anyways, daytime and nighttime strains, right? You're looking at it. So cannabis users, right? Obviously during the day, most people do not necessarily want to be, going to bed or sedated, and that's very reasonable. But some people, might have the day off and you're like, I'm chilling today, right? And so you could absolutely have more of a sedating, cannabis strain. And when you talk about sedating, you're looking at, terpenes. So again, reading out from here, limonene, right? Found in citrus fruits, known for its antidepressant and anti-anxiety properties, very relaxing terpene, perhaps even a little bit more uplifting, than sedating. But you got myrcene, a fruity yet earthy aroma, right? Valued for its sedative and pain-relieving qualities. Pain relieving, also with anti-inflammatory qualities as well. Pinene, something that we probably realize we've got a lot of pine trees around us in many different parts of this town. Maybe you got one in your yard or whatever. Maybe you go and walk in the park and you see a pine tree, or you got one at school, or however it may be. Pine trees actually have a lot of anti-inflammatory and memory boosting properties. So, talk about a energizing terpene. Maybe if you mop the house with pine salt, you notice it's a little bit uplifting. It's not necessarily like, what am I thinking, ammonia? Like maybe sometimes you see those NFL players, and I used to think of One guy that you would really see doing it is Zeke Elliott, and maybe just because back in the day when Zeke Elliott was an actually good football player for the Dallas Cowboys, almost 10 years ago at this point, sad to say, you'd always see him huffing. He'd be huffing the ammonia. And that was very interesting too, because, then boom, and all of a sudden he's trucking people. It only lasted a couple of years, but still pretty cool. Anyways, ammonia has nothing to do with pinene. Pinene is his own thing, but again, just another kind of parallel to how smell can truly kind of change the nature of what's going on in your brain, even if it's for a temporary period of time. And the brain obviously is the key to a lot of physiological processes in the body. So it's pretty cool. Now, I was actually got to get a tour of the baked chicken farm this yesterday. Oh man, it was awesome. I came out of there absolutely uplifted and energized, walking into one of those rooms with, an incredible amount of limonene. I don't know if I can remember, Nimbus Snacks was the strain in that room. But wow, I literally woke up, felt amazing, no cannabis consumed at all. And I was just feeling just like $1 million driving home. That's just from being exposed to it. And obviously it's an excellent, indoor cultivation, the largest in the Southwest, incredibly technologically innovative, cool place. Anyways, minus my reminiscing there, talking about linalool, sought after for its anti-anxiety and sedative effects, very known for its prominence in lavender. And then lastly, caryophyllene, which is present in black pepper, cloves, and copaiba essential oil, adds the spicy and peppery aroma to cannabis, and even more, its unique ability to stimulate the CB2 receptor, which makes it effective in regulating both inflammation and nerve pain. So, caryophyllene in black pepper, very interesting there with those anti-inflammatory tinges as well. So again, when you look at cannabis and you look at the terpenes and you look at the certain strains, usually there's probably about 3 or 4, sometimes 1 or 2 dominant terpenes in those lineages. And so again, when you find strains you really like, it really might have to do with the terpenes versus your THC percent. Obviously your THC percent, currently the market demand is for THC percent, but don't fool yourself there. Don't get caught up chasing THC percent and then buy a flavor or a strain that, just doesn't hit the nose right? If the aroma is off to you personally, you are not going to enjoy it as much as something that your aroma is on. So again, if you can talk to your bud tenders, for instance, at High Horse, ask them what their favorite, tasting and smelling, whatever pre-roll or ounce or eighth is, or if a certain terpene that you like and you're like, hey, I like, you're always gonna hear me saying, I like citrusy smelling things. Do you have anything as such, perhaps with a limonene dominant, strain, such as all of our Sensi line pre-rolls over at High Horse Cannabis Company on a sweet special right now till, limited time. But, it's obviously going to thus create much better effects. So don't spend your money on something that isn't going to smell good or taste good to you, even if you, are really, really persuading yourself because it has 2% more THC and you just think, oh my gosh, this is the deal breaker for me. Really, it's not, I promise. Be adventurous, go explore the terpenes. If you need a reminder, go check out the Cannabis Learning Center on farmtrue.care. We got all the info, how to select a strain, how to select a cultivar, terpenes, the whole thing, right? Definitely got a lot of education there for you. And on top of that, we've got some awesome trade fund tenders all throughout the state. I'm obviously partial to, High Horse and Farm True, but again, there's some great ones all over the state, and they will take care of you. Ask the questions, right? And if they don't know, maybe, double check yourself before you spend money then, right? I don't know. Just depends how careful of a shopper you are. If not, go try everything and, take a notice of what you like. I think of your craft beer people, right? Your craft beer geeks absolutely can tell you all the things they like about certain craft beers and not things that they don't like about other craft beers. Your wine snobs can absolutely tell you the things that they like about wine in some cases and the other things that they don't, right? And maybe you go to a drink tasting event or something like that, and you've got people explaining to you as you taste it, and it helps you a little bit. And maybe you're just like, wow, I really have no idea, right? So it's totally okay if you don't know, right? And so I would say try things and understand that there's literally healing potential that has been studied, and is still needing to be studied even more when it comes to, cannabis. And, a big study, you can click into this from our blog, but this is an awesome one, right? This is from Ethan Russo, and he's a medical doctor. So on National Doctors Day, Ethan Russo is one of the absolute medical doctor pioneers when it comes to medical cannabis. Ethan Russo, Dr. Dustin Sulak, and Dr. Bonnie Goldstein are, probably the three cannabis medical doctor goats, in my humble opinion. I don't know if there's anybody better, but, he's got some awesome stories here. I'm just going to read you a little bit from the abstract, right? Tetrahydrocannabidiol, cannabinol, THC, has been found the primary focus of cannabis research since 1964, when Raphael McCollum isolated and synthesized it. More recently, synergistic combinations and contributions of cannabidiols, aka CBD, to cannabis pharmacology and analgesia, right, pain, have been scientifically demonstrated. Other phytocannabinoids, including tetrahydrocannabivirin, cannabigerol, and cannabichromine, exert additional effects of therapeutic interest. Innovative conventional plant breeding has yielded cannabis chemotypes expressing high titers of each component for the future study. But this review explores another echelon of the phytotherapeutic agents, the cannabis terpenoids, specifically in this one, limonene, myrcene, alpha-pinene, linalool, beta-caryophyllene, tongue twister for me, but neurilidol and phytol, right? Terpenoids share a precursor with phytocannabinoids and are all flavor and fragrance components common to human diets that have been designated as generally recognized as safe by the United States Food and Drug Administration and other regulatory agencies. Terpenoids are quite potent and affect animal and human behavior when inhaled from ambient air at serum levels in the single digits. That's nanograms per milliliter. They display unique therapeutic effects that may contribute meaningfully to the entourage effects of cannabis-based medicinal extracts. Particular focus will be placed on phytocannabinoid and terpene interactions that could produce synergy with respect to the treatment of pain, inflammation, depression, anxiety, addiction, epilepsy, cancer, fungal and bacterial infections, including methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, aka MRSA. Scientific evidence is presented for non-cannabinoid plant components as putative antidotes to intoxicating effects of THC that could increase its therapeutic index. Methods for investigating entourage effects in future experiments will be proposed. The phytocannabinoid and terpenoid synergy, if proven, increases the likelihood that an extensive pipeline of new therapeutic products is possible from this venerable plant. So very, very awesome. To all the people that want to go geek out and read on this, there is a lot of, good information here, a lot of good explanations. I hope to give you the, at least, easily broken down level of things like this covered in our blog. But if you want to get into the meat and potatoes of all of this, go check it out. Got the link to it right here on our terpene blog. You can go access it either through the blog page or through our Learn page. And, right at the bottom, the therapeutic potential of cannabis link takes you right to, the basis of my conversation here in our Herbal Wellness Corner, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company. All right, moving on. Community Spotlight brought to you by the Baked Chicken Farm. And we are talking about another bird today. It's talking about nest box donations to the New Mexico State University American Kestrel Project. Well, what is the American Kestrel Project? Undergraduate lead research through NMSU, utilizing nest boxes to study local American kestrel populations in 100 boxes throughout the Mesilla Valley. Location parameters: large cottonwood trees or other large trees, properties adjacent to or near open fields, areas that are not easily accessible, and preferably not fenced areas in with pets. So how do you get involved? Donate a nest box through Wild Birds Unlimited. Contact them to set up a date and time for the installation of a net box on your property. So very cool stuff. I didn't realize how many bird people we have in this city, by any means. I serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee, and on Tuesday, this is public record, there was a big uproar about the Apodaca blueprint development that had been going for the last at least approved, I think, 6 years ago. And so they're finally starting to get moving on one of the portions there of it. And I'm not really going to speak much more to it, but one of the big arguments there that evening was for the birds, man, for the wildlife, for the birds. And so there is an energy in this city that absolutely supports the birds. And if you want to support the birds, this is it right here. Get into the Nest Box project to the New Mexico State University American Kestrel Project. I think, obviously community development and things like that. We've got a housing crisis in the city of Las Cruces. We've got a lot of things that are wrong. I completely understand property owners, rights to have an opinion and everything like that. And by all means, I've faced my own personal dilemmas when it comes to planning and zoning from the other side. But anyways, before anybody starts to, really just come at me, I just thought I wanted to give a place to redirect that energy tonight. Support the New Mexico State Nest Box American Kestrel Project. Go help some birds. We got plenty of land all around the city of Las Cruces, all over the place for all kinds of wildlife. But we have people with nowhere to, live and sleep, and supply and demand and rent just continues to go up, and there's a lot of issues, right? So, anyways, let's move on to our Men's Health Minute, brought to you by Vado Speedway Park. Just want to reiterate from a men's health professional, Dr. Helen. I'm just going to let her do the talking here. She's a urologist. So check this out.
I'm Dr. Helen Burney, and I'm the Director of Male Sexual and Reproductive Medicine and Assistant Professor